Hi everyone, just let me load up my screen share for you. Can everyone see that? I hope so. So I'll just give you a little bit of background about myself and welcome you to the DJ Skills Workshop. So my background in the music industry is I started out as an event promoter, running an event called CD Sonics at the Rainbow venues in Birmingham. And I also DJ'd at the event as well. From doing that for 5 or 6 years, we started another event called Carnival Magnifico, which was a big multi-genre event, and we were booking artists like David Rodigan, Gentleman's Dub Club, Toddler T, Mr. Jam, people like that. And it was multiple genres across a few different rooms, which was similar to what we did with CD Sonics. I've also worked as an artist liaison at festivals like Made Festival. I've worked as a DJ tutor, and I have a background as doing sound engineering and a music production degree from Birmingham City University. So starting out as a DJ, there's a few key things that everyone who starts out as a DJ should do, which is, it's quite simple really. Learn your trade by practicing as much as possible. I can't stress that enough. Like, I remember when I started out, it was probably a few hours a day whilst I was studying in the evenings, just with my flatmate, just practicing different mixes, mixing different styles of music, training my ears and really working hard on developing that side of it, because I think training your ears to listen to two different bits of music at the same time and understand whether something's faster or slower, it's a real skill that does take the time to learn. Another thing to do, record yourself to listen back. It's a really easy way to track your progress. You'll be able to hear where you've made a mistake. You'll be critical of yourself, but that's the quickest way to really improving as a DJ. Listen to your favorite DJ sets, make notes on how they transition between tracks, listen to their tune selection. Why are they your favorite DJ? Is it the tunes that they play? Is it the way that they mix them together? There's different DJs have different styles. So someone like DJ EZ does a lot of cutting and chopping and using effects, whereas other DJs like some of the trance DJs or the techno DJs do a lot more long blends. Networking with other event promoters and other DJs in your local area, be active within the scene that you want to break into. If you're looking to get gigs and go out and work as a DJ, the best way to do that really is to be supporting other events and other DJs. Go and watch people. You can, if you develop friendships with people, you'll be able to watch them while they're performing close up in the DJ booths and things like that. And that's a really good way to learn your skills, because you'll pick up things that other DJs do that you might not necessarily have thought about doing yourself. Be flexible and prepared to take on unpaid gigs as well to develop your confidence in front of a live audience. I mean, when I was starting out, I was playing basically to bar staff in the second room of a popular event, but everyone wanted to be in the main room with the headline DJs, and people weren't that bothered about what was going on in the second room. But that helped me build my confidence. I got some nice compliments from people like the bar staff or the couple of people that were passing through. And then off the back of that, doing a few gigs like that, then people will give you more of a chance and you'll be able to build into doing bigger gigs as you develop your confidence and prove yourself as a DJ as well. Because there's so many people that want to do it. You have to be prepared to occasionally take an unpaid gig and things like that. And then building an artist brand that you can use to promote yourself on social media as well. I can't stress that enough, how important that is in this day and age. You need to work on having a logo that people recognize as yours. It'll look good on flyers. You need to be active and engaging with fans on social media, using platforms like that to spread information about yourself as a DJ, what kind of music you're listening to, where you DJing next, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that we did with CD Sonics and Carnival Magnifico was we built partnerships with brands like Bestival, Outlook. We did events with Red Bull. We did events, launch parties for like Snowbombing Festival. So I'm just gonna show you guys a video now.
We like it, video. I like it, you like it too. Stamina MCs on wax for the movement crew. See, all I know is this tune tears up nothing you. So anytime we're around, this is what we do. It's the way that we play this sound. It's the way that we bring this sound to you. It's the way that we play this sound. It's the way that we bring this sound to you. Hey yo, this is the way that I come best to you. Don't get the fight in every game that I hear. We okay time so we just don't know what to do. There ain't a day when I don't get that feeling. But about tonight, the vibe is right, and I'm damn it, I've been holding any longer, baby. Just for tonight, the vibe is right, and I'm damn it, I've been holding any. Because it's the way that we bring this sound to you. It's the way that we play this sound. It's the way that we bring this sound to you. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo.
So you can see we worked with Weird Science, CD Sonics, which was the brand that I was part of, and Bestival, and we put on a huge show that was up to about 5,000 people across multiple different rooms at the Rainbow venues. We did that for a few years in a row, which was a big end of uni party in June on like the last day of exams for all the students. And then this is a video from one of the Outlook launch parties that we did. And off the back of doing these events, we got to go and do gigs at these festivals as well. So it was a really useful partnership because what they got out of it was we were promoting their festival to our audience, and what we got out of it in return was tickets to their festivals and the chance to go and play in exciting locations. So I'll show you the video for the Outlook launch party as well.
If the truth be told, I'm a sucker for the high grade. If the truth be told, when I'm grey and old, will I still be getting involved? If the truth be told, I'm a sucker for the high grade. If the truth be told, when I'm grey and old, will I still be getting involved? Up on days of struggle just like anybody else. When I'm stuck in the bubble, I don't make sense of it. I don't know what they're talking about when they come round here and run up their mouth. So I got on that hustle bus to go find my wealth, but that journey's long and hazardous to my health. Right now, the jury's out. There's only one thing I care about. If the truth be told, I'm a sucker for the high grade. If the truth be told, when I'm grey and old, will I still be getting involved? I hope so. If the truth be told, I'm a sucker for the high grade. If the truth be told.
So you can see that by partnering up with these brands, we got to put on some really good parties. One thing that I would say is starting out as a DJ, I mean, there's different routes that you can take, but one thing that really helped elevate myself as a DJ was putting on events and being able to book artists that I looked up to and respected and getting to play alongside them by either warming up or playing the last set of the evening. And that was, yeah, something that really helped me, and it built my confidence as well, because getting to share a stage with people that you look up to can really, if they see what you're doing and you get good feedback off them, then obviously it's a massive confidence boost. I've just realized that I'm not presenting this full screen. Sorry about that. So what does a DJ actually do on stage? So this is when a DJ is performing. He or she'll do anything from counting the beats, bars and phrases when the tracks are playing and having like almost an internal metronome going. Spend time digging for new music to play at live events, choosing the records to play next when performing live, blending the tracks together using the mixer control, so that's more on the technical side of things, interacting with the audience and crowd, changing the tempo of the music, so as the night progresses, usually the tempo will increase and get faster to keep people engaged, and especially as the night comes towards the end, you want to have up-tempo music going, otherwise people tend to leave. Using effects to create interesting transitions. Another important thing, dancing to the music that they're playing, because if the DJ's not dancing and enjoying what they're playing, then how can they expect people in the crowd to enjoy it? Being able to read the mood of the crowd to inform any decision making when selecting the next record. So if you play a tune and you look up and quite a few people are leaving to go outside and have a cigarette, or people don't seem to be feeling it, you need to be able to make snap decisions and pull out a tune that you know people are going to be excited to hear. And you know, it's about taking risks. So sometimes you might play something to educate people, but it might not connect with the audience. So you just have to be prepared to be able to be quite flexible and intuitive about what you're doing, because it doesn't always work, but a good DJ can correct when they've made a poor choice quite quickly. And creating a unique mood or atmosphere by combining all of the above. I mean, the best DJs, you can usually tell a set by them because they create specific atmospheres. They select records that fit with the atmosphere or the mood that they're trying to create. So yeah, that's quite important to think about. Bear with me. Just having a technical issue there. So there's no substitute for practicing when it comes to learning how to mix. Training your ears to completely listen to two different pieces of music at the same time, and then being able to correct the speed or pitch of one of the tracks so that they match up, is something that will take a while for most people to get used to. A technique that people often use when learning to mix is to set up both decks, turntables or controller to have both the same track playing on both channels and then match the tempo. And the reason for doing that, which I'll show you this video now, is that it's really easy to hear if two of the same track are out of time with each other, because it's the same track. So you can tell if when they're layered on top of each other, it doesn't sound right. When you've got different rhythms and different drum patterns and different bass lines and melodies, it's a lot harder to actually lock into the sounds. What people tend to do is listen for either the kick drum or a snare or a clap, or one sound that's quite easy to hone into. But I'll show you a video of me mixing two of the same track into each other, and it starts out purposefully out of time, and then you can hear as I correct it. So let's have a listen to that. So you can hear that train wrecking. And running together at the same time. And one thing that will usually happen when you're running two tracks the same, when you get them perfectly beat matched, you'll get some sort of like phasing coming through, and it'll only start phasing because two of the audio signals are perfectly matched up. So if you have it and it's almost there, but you don't hear the slight phasing, which if I play that again, you should be able to hear. So one really important thing for when you start out learning to DJ is understanding how beats, bars and phrasing works. Most of you probably make music yourselves, or it's something that you'll be familiar with, but most popular music is structured in 4/4. So to work that out, a bar contains 4 beats, meaning that every 4 beats of music, a new bar will begin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's generally the metronome that you'll have counting in your head when you're mixing records. And then phrases are made up of a number of bars. Usually 8 or 16 bars would make up a phrase. Notice the changes in color in the image below, which is on the next slide, as well as subtle changes in the waveform size. They are good visual indications of a new phrase. Couple that with what you hear, and you can utilize both what you hear, like hearing a crash cymbal or a new instrument coming in, or a new sound, usually signified by a drum fill or a sweep coming in beforehand. And on a waveform, which you'll see on the slide below, you can actually see where different phrases come in and out. So it's really important to develop a knowledge of how beats, bars and phrasing work within the different genres that you want to mix. So if we have a look at this now, you can see here, we've got a new phrase coming in. We've got a drum fill here and then a new phase starting. And if you look at the waveforms here along this section, these have been labeled with little hot cues. So we've got an intro section there, we've got a bass drop here, and you can see the color change in the waveform. C is the first drop there, D, main drop here, E, a drum break, F, mix out, G, outro, and then H, outro 2, and then similar on the other side. One thing that's really important about mixing on phrase with another track, or in phrase, sorry, is when you've got 2 records playing, you want the phrases to be lined up, because usually with electronic music, the way it's structured is that every 8 bars or so, a new element will come in or be taken out. So say every 8 bars, you'll get an extra percussive sound, or a hi-hat will come in, or a bass line, or a new melody will come in. And then because of the nature of the repetitive music, every 8 to 16 bars, something will drop out. So you wouldn't want to come in a mix on like 3 bars in or 5 bars in, because the changes on both tracks will be happening instead of simultaneously, like 2 changes coming in, one on F here and change on this track on F. Say the bottom track, the change was here and that one was there, it wouldn't sound as fluid as it's supposed to sound. So it's really important to lock into beats, bars and phrasing and use that as the starting blocks for when you're DJing. So let's have a look now at how DJs generally organise their music. Rekordbox, which is Pioneer's flagship DJ software, is what most DJs use to prepare their music for gigs, radio, live streams, for everything basically. It was primarily intended for DJs to organise and export their tracks onto a USB drive for playback on a CDJ, rather than for performing with a laptop. But over the past few years, with the increase in DJ controllers coming out, Rekordbox can now actually be used as DJ software, and it's got an inbuilt performance mode and you can connect a controller to it. So yeah, if you organize your music within Rekordbox, you'll be able to perform straight away using Rekordbox without the need for expensive DJ equipment. It's really important for DJs to be organized with their music. Again, I can't stress that enough. I remember when I was starting out and I used to have to burn CDs, carry a CD wallet, and I'd have all the track names written down on little bits of paper, and you'd go to a gig halfway through, all your CDs have ended up back in the wrong sleeves. It's really difficult when you're looking for a tune. It's not so messy nowadays with having music on USBs, and you can have everything organized in different playlists for different genres, by artists, by record label, by keys. You could set different playlists for different events. You can really go deep into being organized, and the more organized you are, the easier you'll find it when you have any issues as a DJ. Like I mentioned before, if you need to lift the crowd and you need to locate a specific track to do that, being organized will really help you to do that basically. Both Serato DJ Pro and Rekordbox DJ let you import, browse, search and organize thousands of tracks within a music library. Rekordbox, however, takes it a few steps further with a few more advanced tools, which just are different ways to look at how the metadata is recorded. So you've got things like star rating, so you can rate a track from 1 to 5, which some people use for energy, some people use for 1, it's not a good tune, 5 is an absolute banger. You can put custom tags on, so you can label things for specific gigs and things like that. Related track searches, which is quite handy as well, and there's also a dedicated window for ID3 tag editing. Rekordbox is free to download as well, so Pioneer have really pushed this as their flagship software. So with Pioneer DJ equipment being what you find in like nearly every club that you go to, a lot of the controllers on the market as well are Pioneer. Rekordbox is free. You can organize everything within Rekordbox, all your music. You can put any tags and do all of that. And then when it comes to exporting music to USB, all you have to do is plug it into any Pioneer DJ hardware, and everything that you've organized will come up. So on the screen, you'll be able to see everything such as key signatures, tempo, waveforms, ratings, comments. You can do similar stuff within Serato, but Serato, it's paid software. And you also, it doesn't have quite as in-depth metadata. You can do things such as like analyzing the key of tracks, creating playlists and doing all of that stuff, but Rekordbox just goes that little bit further. So it's the one that most people use as well because it's free. So using Rekordbox, so I've got a video here. I'll just have to come out of present mode to make this full screen. So one of the first things to do when you load up Rekordbox is come into the preferences, hit the analysis tab, and make sure that you've got these set. So track analysis mode you want on normal, and I've got mine set to a BPM range of 70 to 180 beats per minute, which covers most electronic dance music or electronic music in general. Lots of pop music. right the way up to drum and bass and jungle, which is towards the 170 to 175, 176 BPM. And then you also want to make sure that you've got the track analysis setting set to analyze the BPM and create grids. And also you want the key checked as well, because that'll let the algorithm work to analyze the key signature of the track. So if you've got that set up, that's how you want it. Sometimes it'll give you a prompt every time, but I've got mine set up so that it doesn't prompt me. It's just all set up on the back end like this. So if we come into here now, within Rekordbox, you have on the left side, this area here, this is where all your music is generally stored. So anything that's been analysed within Rekordbox goes into your collection. You can create playlists within here. You can also pull music from iTunes. So if I wanted to import some music from iTunes into Rekordbox and analyse it for use to DJ, then I can come into here, and within this section here, this is all my music from iTunes. This is all my music in the collection. So you can see this top selection of tunes here, I've actually analysed here straight from iTunes. So let's have a look at how that works. So if I wanted to select, say, these tunes, highlight them, right click, and then import to collection. As you can see, the little taskbar here will go up, and then as soon as it's done, you get the little Rekordbox logo to say that it's been imported. You get the waveform, and then further along you can see as it's doing it, the BPM is being analysed for each tune. Yeah, just give that a second. So I need to come into here. Then in the collection now you can see these being added. And it's created keys for each track. So it's got the key signature recorded. We've got the tempo. We can put in a rating if we want. Some people use these for energy. So 1 would be low energy, 5 would be high energy. Some people use them for if it's a banger. If not, where would you rate it? I don't know, but you can use the rating system however you want. There's also other things that you can set up here if you want. So you can have different options like bit rate, date it was created, year it came out. You can put your own comments in. All this useful metadata that you can add to the tracks so that when you go to DJ, you've got all the information on the equipment. So what we'll do now is we've got this track loaded up, and if you can see here, we have these red lines every 4 beats on the downbeat. So what you might find is, say you load up a track, occasionally, if the analysis isn't right, the grids might be a little bit off. And what you want to do is make sure that these red beats or intervals from the grid are actually on the downbeat or the first beat. So to fix that, it's shift the whole beat grid to the left, and you just hold it down, line it up till it's all in place. Let me just check that. And now so you can hear that the red line is always on the first beat of a bar. So that's really useful, but for the grids to all match up, you always want to make sure that you come in and just shift the beat grid left or right if it hasn't analysed it correctly. So let's have a look at another one of these tunes. Let's come to where the first major beat is. And so these tunes that have been analysed, it looks like everything's fine. I'm not going to have to tweak it, which just shows the software is really accurate. But occasionally, if you do have an issue, this is your friend for fixing it. And yeah, so basically, if you wanted to go into more detail, so let's load up this track. So you can see we've got the intro, which is this section here. What you could do is come into here, and I can, using the hot cue section, is I can set hot QA. So if I set that now, we've got a cue point that we can call at any time. Where the breakdown comes in, we can set B. Where the next drop is, can set as C, and then could set here as an outro for where to start mixing the next tune in. And all this information that's stored here, when you come to export your music, it will actually save this information in the metadata, so that when you put your USB into the CDJs, this information will come up. So if you wanted to prepare a mix and be organised, what you could do is put in cue points that signify where you want to start the next track. And this is really useful for if you're preparing a mix to record or for a DJ set, and you want to find all the perfect cue points to start where you're mixing the next track in, to make sure that you've got really smooth, nice blends. This is a great way to do it. And all this information that is stored will end up being visible on the CDJs. So I'm just going to show you this next video, which is where everything's on the CDJs now. So I've loaded up the Camel Fat tune that we were working on within Rekordbox onto a USB. And as you can see, we've got A, B and C here, which are the hot cues that I set within Rekordbox. I actually had to tweak it a little bit just because this CDJ can only do 3 hot cues, whereas the upgraded version of this can do up to 8. So whereas I set 4 before when I was showing you, I took 1 out just so that everything would show up nicer on here for you. But yeah, so if we press hot QA, then B, C. So you can hear, you can either jump to specific points within a tune using the hot cues, or you could use them as a visual aid to select where you want to start a tune from, or where you want to start the next one that you're going to be mixing in. So for me now, I'd press play on the right deck when this one got to C. So as it's coming to here, I'd press play now. So that's a really useful way of managing your phasing. That's a really useful way of managing your phrasing when you're So now that you've understood how you can use Rekordbox or Serato for analysing music files, we'll touch a bit more on other harmonic mixing software. So the term harmonic mixing is used to explain when a DJ selects two tracks that mix together. Sorry, I forgot about the big screen. That are harmonically rich with one another. This means that the key signatures that define each track work together when the tracks are playing together in the mix. Usually that means that the two keys or the two tracks share a lot of the same notes within the major or minor scales, making for a harmonically rich transition when playing two different but compatible keys together. While many talented DJs mix intuitively using their ears, the rest of us can benefit from learning the keys of tracks and understanding which keys are compatible. And there are a few computer systems or programs that have been created to help DJs with organising the key signatures of each individual record. These include Mixed in Key, which is basically the flagship software that first used algorithms to analyse key signatures within music. Rekordbox, Tractor and Serato, which are all DJ software, they've now incorporated their own key analysis into their software. Serato uses Mixed in Key's Camelot wheel system, and Rekordbox uses its own system, and I think Tractor uses the Camelot system as well. So let's have a listen to a mix that's harmonic and then a mix that's unharmonic through Serato. Let's have a look at what a harmonic mix actually is. We've got two tracks here that are both 7A from the Camelot wheel. So even though that one's 120 beats per minute and this is 125, you can see that the tempo here, which is what's playing, is both synced up, and we've used the sync button in the software to do that. But you can see here, this pitch fader has been sped up from the middle to create that being 125 beats per minute. The other important thing to notice is that this button here is activated on both decks. That's the key lock button, which is the same as the master tempo button on the CDJs. So let's have a listen to these two tracks together and we'll be able to hear that they're nice and harmonically rich with each other. Using this plus and minus just to line up the grid so that the beats are in time before I pull this across. So So as you can hear with that, that was really nice and harmonically rich when they were layered together. Even though there was a vocal on both tunes, they didn't really clash, and it just had a really nice harmonically rich feel to the blend. That's what you're looking for when you are mixing harmonically. You want the tunes to complement each other like that. So this time we're going to have a listen to a mix that isn't as harmonic. So we're going to use Celeste again, just so that we've got a tune that we've already heard and we're familiar with how it sounds when it's mixed harmonically. This time we're going to mix with a 1A tune instead of a 7A tune. We've got, it's 120 beats per minute, so it's the same speed as the previous tune we mixed, but it's just completely different key. So these numeric values are using the Camelot system rather than the Rekordbox system, but they work just the same. So mix from the same point again. So what I'm trying to do here is make sure that the beat lines are lined up with each other before I bring it in. So you can really hear the difference between the last mix with Celeste and Just, which worked really nicely. The notes were quite similar, the chords were quite similar, the vocals, everything was in key with each other. This time, everything was tuned differently on Funky Bones and the notes were different. It just sounded a bit too busy and like there was a lot of clashing going on. And that's something that can be avoided by utilising software such as Mixed in Key or the Rekordbox software or Serato, which has its own analysis as well. So Serato goes down the Camelot wheel system, so it does it all numerically, which is how it's built into the algorithm on here. But Rekordbox actually labels it with the musical key. It you don't really need to understand the musical key too much to get your head around it. You just need to understand how the systems work. So within this software, if you wanted to follow the Camelot system, you could go using 7A to another 7A tune, 7A to a 7B tune, if you wanted to go from minor to major and go to the relative minor or major key. Then if you wanted to stay within the minor keys, you could go from 7A to 6A, 7A to 7A, or 7A to 8A. So that's staying on the outer circle of the Camelot wheel rather than going into the inner circle, which is the relative major keys. So let me just pull up the Camelot wheel for you now. So the Camelot wheel is used by mixed in key, and each musical key is represented by a number and a letter combination. So as you can see here, we've got on the outer circle, we've got all the major ones, and on the inner circle, we've got all the minor keys. And the way it works, as I mentioned, is you can go one either side. So if you're on 8A, you could go from 8A to 8B. You could go from 8A to 8A, 8A to 9A, or 8A to 7A, and you can work your way around the circle like that. So I've got another demonstration that just shows harmonic mixing, but this time on CDJs, and talks a bit through how that works. So we're going to start with a track on the right deck, which is Bicep Higher Level, Biceps Remix. As you can see, it's G minor and 123 beats per minute. You can see on the waveform here, we've got the intro, main body of the tune, breakdown, second drop, and then the outro here. And what's important to know is that you need to have this master tempo button turned on. I'm just going to flick the track in, so let's find a melodic part, and I'll show you why you need to have the master tempo turned on. So if I get this playing, at 0, this is in G minor, so this is the key that it was written in. Now, if I slow it down on the master tempo to about 118, really hear that the melody has changed key. You can hear the pitch bending as it's being sped up or slowed down. So let's put it back to 0 and then activate the master tempo button. Now, if I slow it down or speed it up, you can hear that didn't change the key as it was speeding up or slowing down. And the importance of that is that when you're selecting a tune on the other CDJ, you don't want the pitch of that tune to change when you're trying to match the tempo of the beats together. So what master tempo does is it key locks the pitch of the music regardless of how fast or slow you're playing it, which is a great little function, and most software or DJ equipment has that function on it. So if we come across onto the left deck now and come into this key folder, you can see it's got all the different keys, and you can see that G minor is lit up green. So if it's lit up green, that means that it's reading the information from the right CDJ, which at the moment is the master, because that one was playing first. So if I come into this folder, you can see that compatible keys with G minor are B flat, C minor, and D minor, and G minor itself. And then if I come into this folder, we've got loads of different tracks. I'm going to go with Audio Jack Plastic Dreams, and you can see here that this is C minor, and the other one is G minor. So they're not the same key, but what they will have is enough notes within the scales that are similar to be harmonically rich with each other. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix these two tracks together with master tempo turned on both CDJs, so that we've got a nice clean in key mix with each other, even though they're different keys, they're keys that are harmonically rich, so it will work. So let's have a listen to how that sounds now. So you could hear that those were nice and harmonically rich with each other. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a different track, so Plastic Dreams, which is C minor, and on this deck let's find another G minor tune, but we'll do it with the key lock off. So just come into G minor, let's find City Life, which is around here somewhere. So you can see G minor, and we'll do this at a bit of a slower tempo, so 119. We're going to keep the key lock on this, so that's going to keep the right deck locked as G minor. What we're going to do on the left deck is turn off master tempo, slow them down so that it's going to be the same speed. So you can see 119 on this deck, 119 on the right deck. And what we should notice with this one now is, because the key isn't locked on Plastic Dreams, the mix isn't going to sound quite as harmonically rich, because we're bending the key of the left deck, whereas the right deck is staying locked because master tempo is on. So let's have a listen to how these two sound together, and what we'll do is we'll go from City Life into Plastic Dreams again. So we'll follow the G minor into C minor. So you could really hear the difference between those two mixes. The second one just didn't sound quite as clean and harmonically rich, even though the grooves were locked in, and to most people, untrained ears, you could probably get away with it. But if you want to really stand out as a DJ, these are the sort of techniques that can help elevate your skill set. So there's a few other types of harmonic mixing that can be done. So the different variations you can use when it comes to using the Camelot wheel to create harmonic mixes. There's a technique called power block mixing and another technique called energy boost mixing. Power block mixing combines two different DJ techniques. It describes the action of playing a new song every 30 to 60 seconds or like a minute and a half, while block mixing is dropping songs in the same key in blocks. So you'd go 8A, 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 then 3A, 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 3A. So what you're doing is creating blocks of really harmonically rich blends, and then that really helps create a nice journey. It's often used by DJs when playing extended sets of over an hour, as you can create blocks of tracks that work really well together before switching into a new block as you progress your set. And it really helps create a musical journey that your audience can easily follow whilst listening to the performance. So let's have a listen to some power block mixes and see how that sounds. So I'm going to demonstrate what power block mixing sounds like now. I'm going to mix 4 tunes in the key of G, and I'm going to start with a slightly more melodic and low energy tune, and as the power block progresses I'm going to play a bit more energetic tune, so you can hear how you can make changes whilst mixing in a power block but still sticking to the harmonically rich block of tunes. So let's have a listen to how that sounds then. So that's what a nice power block sounds like. And then we've got, let me just come down to it. So energy boost mixing is a technique that you can use to give the dance floor a quick burst of excitement. So on the Camelot wheel, say if you've got a tune that's C minor or 5A in the numeric system, and you wanted to give a quick energy boost to the crowd, instead of going 5A, 6A, 7A, you can miss out 6A and jump up to 7A, and it'll add a little bit of spice to the mix. It's not something that you should try to do all the time, but also with harmonic mixing, this isn't a fixed rule that every mix has to be harmonic. It's just something that you can do to elevate yourself as a musician. Think of singers in a band. You wouldn't really want your singer singing out of key with the rest of the instrumentalists in the band. So when you're DJing and selecting music, you want to select tracks that work together. But occasionally, by mixing like a few keys up, you can add a little bit of spice to it, and it can sort of pick up the energy in the mix. So let's have a listen to an energy boost mix. I'm so in this mix, I'm gonna demonstrate because the first mix is 2 tunes in the same key, but then the third mix is the energy boost. Let's have a listen to that. So you could hear how that did actually lift the energy from the first mix and the second mix. They were the same key, and then the third mix, which was the last one that you heard there, you could really hear the energy boost up a little bit. So there's mixing with effects is another really useful thing that you can implement to create really interesting and varied transitions between mixing between two records. It's another way to add a bit of spice to the mixing process. All DJ software and most DJ mixes have some effects built into them. These are usually a mix of echo, delay, reverb, flanger, phaser, filter, looping, but there are variations on these effects depending on which DJ mixes or DJ software that you end up using. Another important thing to take note of when using these effects is to use them fairly sparingly. Don't keep using the same effects every mix that you do. You want to keep your listeners engaged and by using different effects throughout the course of an entire mix, you'll keep the audience on their toes because you'll be staying unpredictable in your transitions. Sorry, let me pull that back up. Let me just make this full screen for a second. So you can see here off the Pioneer mixer here, this section here is the effects section, and you can see all the Pioneer effects laid out there. And then this section here is for the sound color effects. So the next video that I'm going to show you will come into these in a bit more detail. So let's have a look at that.
So let's have a look at the sound color effects to start off with. You've got this panel here, and then these color knobs assigned to each channel. And when they're in the middle like this, that means that no effect is being added to the signal. But if we get a tune going, and then using the filter, so high cuts out the lows and only leaves the high frequencies. Low filters out the highs, just leaving the low frequencies. You've got crush, which bit crushes the high frequencies and gets rid of the lows. Bit crushes the low frequencies. Noise. You've got gated, so that way compresses it, and to the left works as a gate. You've got the dub echo, and the more you turn it round, the quicker the echo goes. Same on the low frequencies. And then space, which is a reverb. So reverb on the high frequencies. Reverb on the lows and the highs are left. So these sound colour effects are really good because you can have one effect going and you could have it being used across 2 or 3 different channels. You could have one channel with the effects on the low going on the low frequencies, and on over here have the effect going on the high frequencies. You can also combine these sound colour effects with the beat effects as well. So you can layer the effects up to create really unique and interesting transitions or effects during the mix. So I'll walk you through the effects panel first. This is the beat effects. It's this section on the right hand side of the mixer, and as you can see we've got delay, echo, spiral, which is a combination of reverb and echo, reverb, transpose, filter, flanger, phaser, robot, melodic, slip roll, roll, reverse roll, and MIDI/LFO or send and return, which means you can plug in an external effects unit and control that as well. You've got below that knob here, this knob here, where you've got which channel you want to assign the effects to. So you can do 1 to 4, or you can have the effects on a microphone, or you can have them on the master channel going across all the channels if you've got a few tracks playing at the same time. You've got time, which works in a similar way to these beat buttons, which I'll come on to in a second. And then you've got, when this button is lit up like that, the effects are turned off. When it's flashing, it means the effect is on. But if this pot is all the way at minus, or minimum, sorry, then basically no effect will come through even if it's turned on. You have to open that up. So think of this knob here as your dry wet, or minimum to maximum. And then here you've got the cycle for the amount of beats that the effect will last for. So you've got from 1/8 of a beat, 1/4 of a beat, 1/2 a beat, 3/4 of a beat, 1 beat, 2 beats, 4 beats, 8 beats. So if we have a listen we'll have a listen to the echo first. So we've got track playing here, and I'm gonna mix with the echo and I'll cut the beat grids up and down. So you can hear you can get some quite unique effects going with the echo. If we come on to reverb, I've pulled the fader down there. So if I turn the reverb on and then pull the fader, you can hear that we've still got some sound coming through, which is the reverb tail. So that's called post effects, because even after the pitch fade, the volume fader is brought down, the effect still rings through. If we come on to an effect like the flanger, you can hear that every 8 beats it's cycling through now. And what's interesting with this, I'll leave the effect on, but if I pull this down, that effect doesn't have any post bleed on it. So effects that do are things like reverb, echo, delay doesn't have it, spiral has it. We come on to phaser. Doesn't have it. Things like roll doesn't have it. Reverse roll. As soon as I pull the audio out on these effects, that's it, because they need audio signal for the effect to be added to. So the other thing we can look at with all of this,
there's one more video that I was going to show you on double drops, but I can read through the slide and talk about it instead of showing the video if we want to do it quite quickly. So a double drop it refers to the act of syncing 2 or more tracks so that they have the drop at the same time. This is a technique that is often seen on a music genre called drum and bass. The technique is often seen in other musical genres aside from drum and bass, such as certain techno genres. While doing the double drop sounds simple on paper, it can prove a bit difficult on execution. DJs interested in incorporating this technique in their sets are going to have to experiment with different tracks to make sure that they sound well together. Just like a normal drop, you're going to want to play with the equalizer to get the balance right. There are some tracks that have a very similar drum and bass line patterns, and if that's the case, then you could definitely incorporate them both together. But there are some tracks where it'll just create a very dissonant mix. Again, it's important that you play around with the tracks. And when you have successfully double dropped 2 records, you'll need to use the EQ controls to make sure that the balance of both tracks is right. There are some techniques that you can use, such as juggling the basses, swapping the bass over between the 2 tracks every 4 beats or 1 bar. This is commonly used by DJs like Andy C and can create a new bass line out of the 2 existing bass lines playing off one another. And I did have a video to show you guys a double drop in the mix, but I've run out of time, unfortunately. Did anyone have any questions in the chat? I'll just unmute Alice for a second.
Yeah, I believe that Neil has looked after a majority of the questions. Neil, is there anything that you think would be good coming from Liam?
I don't think so. I think I've covered everything.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you for joining the masterclass. I'm sorry that I've run over a little bit. I was waffling on, but I hope that you all gained some useful information out of it. And thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you very much as well from all of us at SAE. Thank you to Liam and Neil for coming on today. Hopefully everyone has enjoyed the presentation that was displayed. As I say, the recording has been done, so what we will do is it will be going on to the SAE website. We will drop you an email just when it is live on the website. But yes, as I say, thank you very much. And if you do have any questions for Education in Bass, obviously Neil has been putting the details in the chat, or you can drop us an email, which you'd have found on the Eventbrite, which comes through to us at SAE, and I'm sure we can pass that through for you.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. If you do have any further questions, like pop them over to Alice and she can send them through, and me or Neil will get them answered for you. But yeah, thank you guys. It's been wonderful to present to you today.